All right. So I'm back now holding the Cybele 110, and we're going to talk about connecting chords to bass lines. And so that's where this guitar really shines through. It's really got good clarity on the bass. And that's really important for this type of style of guitar, because to create that audio illusion that I was talking about in the opening sequence, you need to have the bass line moving through the changes. So it's again, you're kind of separating those two parts. So let's go ahead and learn a little sequence. And so we're gonna pick the jazz favorite, the 2-5-1. It's in the heart of all popular music. So the 2, that's referring to the second note of the scale. So if we're in the key of C, the people's key of C, then the 2 would be the D, the 5 would be the G, and the 1 is the C, the root. So in this case, we're going to have three chords. The two is D minor, D minor 7. The 5 is G13, and the 1 is C major 7. Now, if you've not met these chords before, it's worth just taking a moment to look at them. The voicings that I'm using are not the ones you initially start with when you learn these, but they're really good ones for this type of style. In particular, this one here, D minor 7th. So I'm playing D, F, C, and F. So that F is doubled. So really there's just three notes, three distinct notes in this chord. It's a 4-note chord. I'm playing it in the middle 4 strings. The G13th, that's a real jazz favorite. It has this 13th note, which is the 6th degree of the scale, and because it's an octave different from the root, then you add 7 to that, so 6 plus 7 is 13. So it's a dominant chord, but it has that 6th note on the top, so we call it G13th. And then C major 7th. This is probably the first jazz chord people learn. And the easiest way to think about it is with a C7th that you would start with when you're learning bar chords, just to add your middle finger down there to get that B note. It gives it that nice warm sound. So those are the 3 chords. And once you've got those under your fingers, it's time to just start thinking about them in terms of a connected bass line. So, I'm just playing little variations on the chords there and the bass lines. I'm purposefully trying not to play the same bass line every time. So that's the simple minded version of the bass line. But I'm just trying to create a bit of movement. And I'm creating that movement by coming from a half step below or above the note that I'm heading to. So instead of just going from D to G, I have a little passing note, that G sharp, back down to G. So that's what's going on in the bass line. But when you add the chords, and you keep the chords ringing while the bass is moving, that's the kind of trick to it. Then it sounds like there's more going on than there really is. And the nice thing about these 3 chords is there's very little movement going on in the left hand. In particular, my pinky is staying on the same string, and it's just moved down by one fret to go to those last 2 chords. And so that kind of anchors the whole thing, if that helps. So you can just get comfortable with that. And you don't have to play all of the chord tones at a given time. That's a good thing to... one thing you noticed before that I did, I went chromatically down to that G, and I was being guided by that bass note that was going chromatically down. So I just moved the whole chord down like that. So you can start to get a little bit more adventurous with the movements as you go along. Once you have a set of chords in one position, it's worth taking it to different positions on the neck. So just real quick, D minor 7th would be up here, up on the 10th fret. G 7th, or in this case a G9 chord, would be over here, and C major 7th would be up here. So you can do the same thing there. So I was just doing. And it begins to sound more musical when you start to make it syncopated. Instead of just going, you just got to. So just have a little play around with the chord voicings in those two positions, and just try to think about the bass line and the chords as being two separate parts, and just keep on with those variations.